Happy New Year, Blue Lockers, and what is a better start of a new year than reading some of your hottest hot takes I've ever seen. Recently, I've asked you guys to comment down some of your hottest Blue Lock hot takes, so we're gonna review all of them today, and I'm very scared. I have briefly scanned through some of them, especially the ones on Twitter are quite hot, let's just say that. And I'm not very sure what to show for like the background footage of this video to make it entertaining enough, so I'll be unboxing / reorganizing a bunch of the merch I own. Okay, so on YouTube I have like 66 comments. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna be going through all of them because there's just so many. I'll read some of the ones I find the most interesting. This video will also be separated into two parts. The first part will be anime only, and the second part will be manga spoilers. So don't worry if you're anime only, you can watch this. Without further ado, let's start reading. Nahyun says, Isagi is extremely mid as a MC. I have to strongly disagree with this one. Putting the bias that Isagi is my favorite character in Blue Lock aside, he is not mid. The only mid thing about him is his design. It's the most boring generic character design for like an MC. Other than that, I think he has some really fascinating aspects about him, especially how his mentality ties so well with like the theme of Blue Lock, which is egotism, and how he fights so strongly for it. I think that's really fascinating, and that is something that a lot of other MCs lack. Like a lot of other shonen protagonists are more about like power of friendship or like working strong with my teammates or more like that. And whereas I don't think like Isagi has that too, but I think he's more to like the selfishness and like goal-oriented than the other types of MCs. So calling him mid is such a disservice to his character. So a counterpoint I have to this take is that if you imagine Isagi with any other design, like let's say he looks like Sonic the Hedgehog, then he would be like 10 times cooler. So this helps you kind of imagine his personality not as mid. So yeah. Next one. Samafar7246 says, Shido is actually Gojo in disguise. They do share the same voice actor. I'm not sure if Gojo would ever say those really suspicious lines, but I mean, sure. No name Murafaichu, I don't know, says, Kunigami gonna break the internet with the last episode. He didn't break the internet, I'm sorry to inform you. I'm sure the Kunigami fans are very happy that he's back, but like so many other things happened in the last episode that broke the internet, like the animation like suddenly being like super fluid and like the animator working so hard over it, and there's so many hype moments like Isagi's final skull and like Kaiser's introduction. I think that kind of all overshadowed Kunigami. Sorry, Kunigami. Next, me like Nagi says, I feel like Isagi not having a sad mid backstory made the fans underestimate him in very wrong ways. I don't think he's underestimated. I think that's kind of a point of his character. Like, he is supposed to be mid-looking. He is supposed to be kind of like, well, not necessarily an underdog, but more like a nobody. He work his way up. I think that is what makes his character charming. The Gold Baller says, Ryo says in the manga multiple times and in the anime that he wants to fight alone and be the best striker, but his entire ability and weapon relies on the other player's quality. This causes me to feel Ryo should have been eliminated at some point in the story, as he isn't a true egoist, being reliant on others with his chameleon weapon. Ryo should have been eliminated by Shido, not Kunigami. Okay, I will disagree with most of this take, except for the last sentence. I think either Ryo or Kunigami being eliminated by Shido makes sense. So I don't see a problem with him instead of Kunigami being eliminated. Either way works. However, I disagree with everything that was said before the last sentence. To refute your point, firstly, Ryo's weapon kind of works similar as Isagi's, where it's about like looking at what others have and adapting. And this kind of is what soccer is. Fundamentally, it's a team sport. Like, you can't remove other people and be by yourself. And a lot of people who has read Blue Lock has taken this the wrong way, where the central theme of egotism is not about being alone. It's about like making yourself shine above others. Like, you still need others. Come on, guys. So your point doesn't make sense to me. And also about your first point of how he wants to fight alone. It's more about him saying that to himself because Rio, he kind of looks down upon himself and thinks he's like worse than Nagi as a player. And that's why he says like he needs to be alone. His whole arc is more about finding out that he can stand his own ground in order to be with Nagi again. And Nagi and Rio, this pairing, like kind of makes up the anti-Blue Lock philosophy in contrast to Isagi, where they have to win the World Cup together. I feel like that's their entire character arc. It doesn't make sense if Rio leaves at all, in my opinion. Marcus YT2521 says, Season 2 animation ain't that bad. Just the U20 game. I will agree with this take because the animation isn't bad. It just wasn't there half of the time. And when it was there, it was amazing. Like, you can't call an animation bad when there is no animation, am I right? Jokes aside, I think the PowerPoint Blue Lock jokes are going out of hand. And it's like not funny anymore and people are still making it, especially people who don't even watch Blue Lock, and it's getting really tiring and annoying. And I'm so glad that the last episodes were animated way better and like it kind of redeemed like the narrative of like Blue Lock animation for like the general public. Sort of Bored said, number 1, Shido, Kaiser, Rin, and Sai are overrated. No, especially for Shido? Really? I thought Shido has way less fans than the latter three that you mentioned. He's not even that popular. Like, if you just look at merch alone, he is way less popular than any of the other characters. So calling him overrated? No way. Secondly, number 2, Isagi is mid. At times, people, at times. At what times? I think he is good. Like, what do you mean as in he's mid? Like, as a player, like, sure, he lost some in the beginning, but he's growing. That's the point of Blue Lock. They need to grow. Yeah. Point 3, Nagi is actually sort of the B word regarding the Rio-Nagi conversation. I strongly agree. He is such a bitch. I hate him so much. Totally don't have merch of him on my shelf. Nagi is so mean to Rio, and I know he doesn't mean it. And especially if you read episode Nagi the manga, you can know like his inner thoughts where he did not mean to make Rio like sad and all this stuff. And that you might say like Rio is like overreacting or whatever. But no, he is still being rude. Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating when people can't see this. He is so annoying to me. He is like that annoying dog that you have that just peed on your carpet, but you cannot kick it because it's a cute little dog. Okay, next. Koro says, Hyuri is a better fanboy than Chigiri. Sure, whatever you say. I like both of them. I am Yu Yam says, Isagi has no character besides Battlefield. That is so wrong. This is the worst hot take I've read yet. Like, they literally make skits in Blue Lock Additional Time about how caring Isagi is. Like, Isagi is a bit like the mom of the group after Kuon left. He's a strong, caring, and passionate soul. Like, those are all really nice characteristics. Saying he has no character is just such a disservice to his character. Rasam8607 says, despite being a soccer shonen manga, I wish there were a small romance subplot somewhere. Nothing about free clock Shido. I don't see the point of adding romance in this story at all. Besides, we kind of have enough romance with Nagi Rio. Like, I'm just saying, these two are, they're definitely more than bros. I don't see a point of romance being added in the plot whatsoever. I don't think it contributes to anything, so I disagree. The Master of Potato 9475 says, the author doesn't know how to write and the show is only popular because it has very hype moments and the art of the manga is extremely good. That's a big statement, saying the author doesn't know how to write. You have said that the show has very hype moments. That is due to writing, my guy. Like, the author is so good at building up these like dramatic, tense, hype moments. And that's why we love Blue Lock so much. Like, sure, there are some other downsides on certain things that the author writes, in like certain ways he handled characters. But overall, like, Blue Lock's writing is pretty decent, I'd say. Burkut2000 says, I don't know if it's a hot take, but I haven't seen anyone talk about how the anime nailed the build-up to the U20 match. By that, I mean showing the people coming to watch the match. the pressure of the cheering, etc. I love this part of season 2. My second hot take is that if you're only gonna complain about the animation, just don't watch season 2. Understand that the animation is super important to some, and I don't blame people for saying it's bad, but if you can't see anything else and can't enjoy the show, maybe, don't watch it and go read the manga. Okay, I agree with the second point for sure. Like, if the anime is making you suffering so hard, go read the manga. Just go and then come back to the anime, to the last few episodes, because they're done really well in my opinion. But for the first take, I agree. I think it was built up really well, especially with the sound effects as well, and also the crowd coming in. Like, it works really, really well, and I feel like it adds this like tension and hype rising for the anime. Even though there isn't like a lot of fluid animation, I think every other aspect of the anime is done well. From the sound engineering to the soundtrack to like the voice acting. Like, I think those are all really good. Infinity Ash says Isagi is overrated. No, he's the main character. He deserves to be loved by the fandom. Rio is underrated. No, Rio has a lot of fans. I swear, like, Rio is always in the top 10 in popularity polls too. Silly Production says Shido licks toys on websites. Oh no. Okay, next. We're now gonna look at Twitter's hot takes. I am so scared. I don't think I'm prepared for what's to come, guys. 185 comments and 141 retweets. I am shaking right now. Alicia says, Sai is one, if not the most mysterious character in the series by far. I say sure, yes. We don't know anything about his backstory in Spain yet, which is something I'm really interested in knowing. His personality is also very like cold and hard to like see what he's thinking, sort of. Salt says the end of Blue Lock will be more interesting if someone unexpected or underrated like Rio or Atoya becomes the top striker instead of Isagi or Rin. Someone replied, My Hero Academia ending as take. Yeah, I guess that kind of sums it up. It would not be great because it doesn't make any sense. Having something unexpected doesn't necessarily make the story good. In this case, it would undermine the story so hard and it would literally ruin the entire story. Like, this is like if at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen, someone like Miwa suddenly becomes like the strongest sorcerer. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Kamoki the Egoist says, Nagi should have an entire chapter of him kissing with Rio. An entire chapter? Like 16 pages of him just kissing with Rio in 500 angles? Really? Okay. Festive Keith says, Sai in his return did nothing wrong with Rin. He came back from Spain with a new role, which suits him better, and Rin overreacted because of it. Rin didn't ask him about his sudden change, and I'm sure there is a strong reason. Sai wanted to play with him until that very moment. I wouldn't say he did nothing wrong, but I would definitely say there's a reason behind Sai's actions, and he is probably more sympathetic if we know of it, like of what happened in Spain with him. But I would say what Sai did to Rin is still very rude as an older brother, and you should probably not do that to a younger sibling. AJD Sai Stanner says, Itoshi Rin is being over dramatic. I can see why you have that take, Sai Stanner. I disagree, but sure. Oliver Aiku Taint Tickler says, Oliver Aiku should oil up and twerk. Okay, next. Cinnamon Death by Link Click says, I think we need to treat Sai like how the Haikyuu fandom treats Oikawa. They both have terrible styles, no ass. But no ass? That's not Sai. Boyfriends with spiky hair. Like, come on. Need to see Sai next to Light and Sukuna in those villain tier list thingies. I think, sure, like, Sai could end up on those villain tier lists. I've actually seen Isagi on those villain tier list things, which are so funny. Sometimes he's even ranked higher than, like, actual psychopath murderers or something. What did my boy ever do? Did Isagi kill your grandma? Also, I've never watched Haikyuu to the point of Oikawa appearing. I actually don't even know why people think Oikawa is such a giant, like a villain. So it, like the memes are really funny. I'm just trying to imagine whatever could some high school volleyball player have done to deserve the title of like a top tier villain. Zenny says, I thought the first few episodes in season 2 were still good with the bad animation, not gonna lie. I'd say as a manga reader, it was definitely disappointing to see all the slideshows, but I would say it's probably still pretty enjoyable. I think fundamentally the writing is just good enough to carry on the anime and still make me invested, and I think anime onlys probably feel the same way. Marie says, Audrey is a baddie. You go, girl, I'm rooting for you. Jollies Adair says, Blue Lock is unrealistic. So many people hate on it, mostly outsiders, because of the insanity of the games. But isn't that the point? The style it was going for was to replicate fight scenes in other shonen mangas. Of course it's not gonna be realistic. I kind of agree. I'm okay with Blue Lock not being realistic enough. Like, sure, it's a soccer manga, but it's also a battle shonen manga, technically. Like, it's framed like one, and it's also framed like a death game manga, which is one of my favorite genres. So I think realism would have really like made Blue Lock worse. So it doesn't have to be hyper realistic. Sigma Rizzler 69, what a name, says, without plot, Isagi wouldn't have gone past first selection. Well, without plot, there wouldn't have been Blue Lock. May I Love You Bachira says, Kuon should have stayed. I don't know what he would offer to the story, but I do find it a bit like sad about how like he got developed, had a bit of backstory, betrays the group, and yet still like in the last second decides to help the group and then just gets kicked out straight away. Like I felt like his character could have had some potential. I actually attempted to do a bit of like rewriting for fun before. During my rewrite, I rewrote Kuon and Kunigami as the same character, and I felt like that kind of really worked. Like going from a super heroic figure and then to like being forced to backstab your group because of the way of how the game has worked and how you're just not winning. I feel like that could have been really fascinating. Remy says all ships in the story are acceptable low-key. Not if you're related, no. Yes homo, but no chromo. Endoji Akira says, Henri is by far the biggest waste as a character. She comes in showing strong ambitions for Japan and a large reason why Blue Lock even happened, yet is only used for ego to rant about philosophies. I also don't see her getting any development, so it's just sad how she's used. I agree. I feel like she's literally just put into the story because they needed a female character or for like some weird fan service or eye candy. She's just so wasted. I feel like she and Ego could have just been a singular character. I understand Ego might need somebody to like talk to his philosophy to for like some narrative points to be like, spewed out, but like Ego could just be talking to any of the Blue Lockers. Like he could just turn on his monitor and be like, yo, hello Blue Lockers, and then start yapping about like luck or something, you know? Peace PMP says, I don't know why people keep shipping these Blue Lock characters, please. They could all just have platonic relationship and be friends. They don't have to date one another. I don't see why you have to have a problem with shipping. Like, if you don't like a ship, just move on. Like, there are certain ships I don't like, and I either just scroll away from them or I kind of block the keyword out because I don't want to see it. It's that easy. It's not in the main story. You're not forced to consume it. Yeah. Kaiser says Baro should be the main character. I don't think Baro will work necessarily as a main character compared to Isagi, because I don't think Baro would think as much as Isagi and narrate what's happening and see the field as much, because Baro's vision is way more like centered on specific things such as hiding like behind people and then like jumping out like a predator. But he would be interesting as a spin-off main character. Like, instead of episode Nagi, we can also get episode Baro. I think it would be really interesting if we dive into his relationship with other characters besides Isagi. He already has a rivalry with Nagi, and also like some sort of like a goofy friendship with Chigiri. I don't know what's going on there, but It would be interesting to see that, and also him playing with more characters. Bonnie says Rin should have killed Sai at the exhibition match. What? Like, just on the field? Like, okay. Angel says, I think everyone is heterosexual. Well, I think you are wrong. Have you seen Shido? Stefan L. Shawarma says, any Blue Lock ship is invalid because they're minors. Why? What do you think shipping is? Why can't minors be shipped? I'm so confused. Like, unless you have some weird twisted idea on what ships are. I've also posted a story on Instagram regarding your hot takes, so I will read them now, and I'm kind of scared too. Cucumber Marble Soda says, 8-Bit spent too much budget on those dogs at the end. What dogs? Oh, Kaiser's feet at the end. Okay. Okay. Ryusei Shido says, Baro's character design is mid, both hair up and hair down. Really? I really like his design. I'm pretty sure during my ranking character design tier list, I kind of ranked him quite high. Like, I feel like it works really well. It goes upwards. It makes him look very spiky and strong, and looks a bit like a crown as well because he's the king, you know? Bambit Monster says Rin Shido is better than Sai Shido. They're funny and more interesting, not ship. I kind of agree. I love the way how they just keep fighting with each other. I feel like we need more of that in Blue Lock. Like, I get how we have more verbal fighting with Isagi and the other characters where Isagi would yell at them, but I wish we had more just boys being boys and they're being stupid, like Shido kicking Rin and stuff, you know? Galectro29 says Rio dying will make Nagi #1 contender to win Blue Lock. You're just making me angry. You know I like Rio. Bruh. Well, Galectro29, I know your address and I'm in your wall right now. I don't know how to pronounce your name, says Rin Sagi lacks chemistry found in other ships. Rin thrives better when he's not attached to values of others. Well, you see, a ship doesn't really correlate to how well a character performs in soccer. I don't know how to answer this because I'm not a big Rin Sagi shipper, so Rin Sagi shippers, please answer in the comments below why this guy is right or wrong, I guess. Rheology says, kind of feel like Nagi's the one obsessed with Rio rather than the opposite. Honestly, it kind of go both ways. If you only see Blue Lock, the anime, or just read the Blue Lock manga, you can kind of see how maybe Rio's the one who's obsessed over Nagi. But if you read episode Nagi, which is Blue Lock and Nagi's perspective, it kind of goes the opposite, which is really funny. This boy can only think about Rio 24/7. So from this point onwards, everything will be manga exclusive. So spoilers if you're an anime only. You have been warned, and you can now leave the video if you don't want spoilers, or jump to the end of the video for some extra little stuff. So LX570XS, extra small, says Kaiser is the best new Gen 11 and is still better than Rin. Well, technically we only know 3 new Gen 11, so it's really hard to say if he's the best. He certainly seems to be the best striker, I guess. I don't think this is a hot take. Still better than Rin? Probably. I mean, he is a new Gen 11, and his scoring ability is just way too powerful. Bro's got the Riz. Cut that out, no. Okay, next one. Adam Shadow 9881 says, everything before the Neo League was better. Story, character, their development, and matches too, because they don't take 6 chapters to score. I don't really think taking long to score is a bad thing necessarily, because you're taking time to develop the characters and their backstories, and some of them are quite interesting. Characters are still the same as well, so I don't really understand what they mean by the characters were better before Neo League. I'm gonna guess you meant that the new characters introduced are less interesting. I have to disagree. I think Kaiser is one of the most interesting characters introduced. He's such a good antagonist for Isagi. Mochi Does Stuff 5331 says, Ego is actually the best striker in the world. Ego? Are you sure? I mean, technically the manga itself says Noel Noah is the best striker, but we've never seen Ego play, so in theory he could be the best striker. I don't know, it just could be true. Okay, next. AC Free Spaz Free S, I don't know how to read that name, sorry, says, Damn, you got a long one. What the? Okay, volume 9 is the worst volume cover. I don't see a problem with the volume 9 cover, like the one with RU on it. Like, it looks fine. Like I don't think this cover is bad at all. Like, I would say volume 24's cover is worse. Like, I'm sorry, Hyori fans. I love Hyori too, but I just think something's very off about his eye and like face proportion here. Okay, number 3. Kyura never deserved the hype he got, and his character design and mellow aura kind of carried him. To be honest, I don't believe that some people genuinely have Kyura as their favorite or even top 15. I kind of agree. Like, he's such a nothing burger of a character. Like, he didn't do anything, honestly. Okay, number 5. Kunigami versus Shido has been disappointing, and simply guarding Shido doesn't have the same weight. It would be better if he beat Shido with striker feats, like Shido did back in the second selection. I agree. I think Kunigami as a whole character has been wasted in this latest arc. I feel like he hasn't done much, and I've been waiting for him to do something, just anything, and he is so pointless as a character. I don't see why they brought him back. And this is no diss to Kunigami as a character or any Kunigami stans. Like, I like him, I just don't see his point in the current story arc. Zen Fantasio says, "You wanna know? Fine. Okay, fine. I wanna see Raichi play soccer because I wanna give this man and other 2 goobers he rolled up with the benefit of the doubt to play with all these other cool and strong characters like Rin and Nagi. I don't want to believe this man is on the same level as Monkman." I agree. I think Raichi has some great potential, but sadly the story just doesn't give it to him. I understand why. I can see how, like, it's just really hard to give him more attention because there's just way too many main characters in this story. But I'm glad he currently has some side love. He's in the defense, he's doing something. It's been set up ever since like the first selection where he defended against Rio. So like I like how to see there's this callback here. I hope he makes it for like the upcoming World Cup. Danu Manu says, "The manga went downhill after Kaiser's backstory dropped. Make him more unlikable to me." That is an extreme hot take. I have never seen anyone else say this. I'm kind of shocked. I would like to know why, because you don't really explain why, but yeah, that's all I can say, I guess. Manuelito6555 says, "Karasu is the most suited to be captain for the U20 World Cup. I know it'll never happen." I highly agree with this hot take. I think Karasu is such a good, strong team leader. Other than him, I would say Rio as well. These 2 are really good at communicating with the team and also like dishing out strategies. And especially for Karasu, he's good at spotting enemies, especially their weaknesses. So I think he would be so good at organizing everyone. In contrast, Rin is not a good captain. Like, sure, he's one of the best players, but as a captain, no, not really. You need to like organize people, okay? With the current state that Rin is in, he cannot be captain. He is so lost right now. So I'd say, yeah, let Karasu be captain. Okay, next. Yesha Forev said, "FC Barcha will win against Manshine. Plead." Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think it will happen. I do think it'll be interesting if it does. AZ says, "Ness is actually a really nice character and I don't understand his haters." What do you mean by a really nice character in terms of just overall character writing or personality-wise? Because personality, Ness is really mean and rude to everyone except Kaiser. And also, he kind of acts like such a dog towards Kaiser. So I don't know, man. I don't know about the nice part. But as a character, for sure, I think Ness is really interesting. Like, although I think Ness is definitely carried by his puppy, Witter Rose looking of a design, I think his character is really interesting to the story and adds a lot to Blue Lock as this, like, submissive midfielder. I can see why people hate on him, because people don't like submissive characters, I guess. And, like, for a series about egotism, he has such, like, a dependency on, like, Kaiser. I can see why people don't like him, but I personally think Ness is cool. Next, Art by the Strawberry says, "Kaiser isn't attractive. I'm Bachira's #1 glazer, by the way." Sure, I can already hear the Kaiser fans yelling. And so for that, I have to say I disagree. There's a reason why Kaiser has so many fans. That's all I can say. Okay, next. AsimCom3611 says Corona is the best support character. He is sure a good support character, but I'd say like depends on what you count as a support character. Like, do you count Bachira as a good support character, or he's like a strong main character? Because I say Bachira is a great support character to Isagi and the other characters. Like, I'd say compared to like other support characters like Hiyori, I think Corona is very underdeveloped. He's certainly fun, and I love his planet and shark motif, but other than that, there's not that much going on with him. Like, we don't know anything about this guy. Tess, Kaiser's wife, says, kindness is the worst legal ship I've ever seen in my life, and I cannot believe how popular it is in the fandom, who gets so upset over abused ex-abuser ships. Kindness is the exact same thing and is literally directly shown in the manga. I'm confused. I guess, like, yes, in terms of the relationship dynamic in the canon story, it is definitely very abused ex-abuser, and it is like, I guess if that's how you define worse, then it would be worse. I'm pretty sure most shippers ship them not because they enjoy this, but that they kind of see potential in how this grows into something nicer. Or they're just into this. I don't know, man. I'm actually not a kindness shipper, so I would never know. However, there's one thing I gotta say. Kindness artists, they're so good. I have yet seen a bad kindness art. That's how you know how good these artists are. Like, they are cooking so hard. Mimi says Ness should have a gun. Why? To shoot who? For self-defense? Why? It would be very funny, but why? Jinx Yu says, I have another one. Wait, let me read your first one then. Jinx Yu says, Kaiser should have left Ness. They should not get back together as things stand now, because Kaiser leaving the person he literally handpicked to brainwash and manipulate and emotionally abuse was a kinder act than staying with him. I strongly agree they should not be together at the current point in the manga. I can see them being back together in the future once Ness develops and is less dependent on Kaiser, and Kaiser is less manipulative towards Ness. They can go back together then. Angelo says Shido's nerf in the current match is illogical. I kind of agree. It's just unfortunate there's way too many main characters to juggle around that they're not giving a moment for Shido to shine. I hope he does something later on, but until the match is over, I can't tell. Number 2 Naruhaya stan. Who's the number 1 Naruhaya stan? Anyways, this person said, I don't mind Metavision being given out the way it's been given out, because it's just a fancy way of saying advanced analytical abilities. I'd go as far as to say that some of the characters who got it recently should have gotten it earlier. I agree. I think characters like Karasu or maybe like Nico, like they have been shown previously to have great vision, so it makes sense for them to have this ability. It's not an Isagi exclusive ability. Scanide says they should start literally killing off characters. Maybe this is why Ness should have a gun. Knight says, if Nagi didn't, hey Rio, we could see Rio development faster. Yeah, I agree. I think they got back together a little too early. Scourge says, we need a near overpowered goalkeeper that makes it super tough for Blue Lock to score on. Introduced soon. Hopefully during World Cup arc. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think most of the goalkeepers have been really lackluster, except for our GOAT Gagamaru. So to have another Gagamaru, on crack even, would have been amazing. Kaisha says, it will never make sense to me if BM wins against PXG, because how are two twinks gonna win against Shido, Rin, and Charles? By two twinks, you mean Isagi and Kaiser? But Shido and Charles are, like, I guess Charles is too small, but like, Shido is definitely a twink too. Cure Nira says, Ness deserves so much better. I agree, he deserves a lot, such as deserving a gun. Your Nemesis says, Bachira is currently a better player than Nagi. I kind of agree. Kind of shown by their, their bid. I keep on seeing people making comments about how Nagi would be better without Rio, But I think Bachira is kind of like a proof of how like you can have ties with someone else, such as how Bachira have ties with Isagi, but like you can still be really strong. And so yeah, I think because of this, like Bachira kind of fully lived this arc where he abandoned his monster, abandoned others, and like kind of like in a way gone back to it and still flourished. So Bachira is like the evolved version of Nagi's character arc. M says, hear me out on Snuffy. I'm not hearing you out because my past art teacher literally looks like Snuffy. And like, ever since I had this realization, I just can't treat art class the same ever again. And it's really funny. Hawk Tua says, there was like no need for Charles to be introduced. He's irrelevant. I kind of agree. I'm so sorry, Charles. Like, I love Charles as a character, but he doesn't offer enough. Like, we already have way too many characters that are very important. So introducing another new one takes up so much manga pages. Like, I just don't think he's that important anymore. Plus, we already have Karasu as a strong midfielder for PXG. So having another one doesn't make that much sense. A dog says, PXG is the best team and should beat Bastard, but this match has been drawn out and is boring. Isagi is paired with too many people and hasn't had a real in-depth relationship duo with someone besides Bachira. I think Isagi's duo with both Corona and Hyori are pretty well. Especially with Hyori, it's like quite built up since the third selection. Obviously, they don't have such like a super strong bond like Isagi and Bachira, but like, it is definitely there, and fundamentally soccer is a team sport, so Isagi will have to be playing with like these people. Also, I think Isagi and Kaiser has been like set up and built throughout the entire Nell arc, and now it's like finally like coming into fruition, and I think it will be interesting. Like, if Bachi Sagi is like a duo at first sight, then Kai Sagi is like a slow burn. Frankie says, I don't care if PXG wins. I need Bastard to lose. I personally don't mind which team wins in this final matchup. I think it makes a little bit more sense for Bastard to win in order to show how Isagi and Kaiser working together was like the right call and that you should just work with your teammates sometimes. But I don't think either of them should score, and definitely not Isagi, because I think if Isagi scores now, he's just like way too powerful at this point. Like, there'll be a lack of development for him in like the future arcs. So I'm good with any outcome for this game as long as Isagi is not the one who scores the final goal. Ember says, it may be because we've only seen it for one match, but the genius prodigy dichotomy is really bad in my opinion. The idea that some players are just simply unbeatable and that the level of skills is unattainable by most is not one that I like right now. I don't think it's necessarily that bad, because realistically there are certain people who are just that guy where they have skills you can never get. And I think it's an important topic to tackle, especially with like super strong high pro players. Like, when you reach that level, there's gonna be certain skills that you will never be able to obtain no matter how hard you try. So I think it's nice to tackle like aspects of that. Mudkeep says, the pacing isn't actually not that bad. When you use two negatives, do you just mean the pacing isn't bad? Yeah, I'll take it as that. The pacing isn't bad. It's the fact that we only get a max of 52 chapters a year is what makes it seem so bad. Like, I feel like Blue Lock in retrospect is like fine with its pacing. I feel like this is honestly an ongoing problem with any weekly manga. People say the same thing with like Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man. The former, which I haven't read yet. I have not read Jujutsu Kaisen. Please don't spoil me. I've been spoiled a lot already. Aaron says, Ness needs to die. What did Ness ever do to you, man? Did Ness kill your grandma? Yamfa says, New Gen 11 means free Gaul now. I don't know, man. I think Kaiser is still really strong as a character. I personally think they should have introduced way more New Gen 11 during the Nell arc. Personally, I want maybe like one character from Barcha to be a New Gen 11, because they just have so many people in Barcha. Like, they have so little important characters in Barcha. They literally only have Bachira and like Otoya